It all started on a rainy afternoon. I was walking down the crowded streets of the city, passing by people in a hurry, everyone lost in their own world. And then I saw him, a young man, sitting on the curb, drenched from the rain, holding a cardboard sign that simply said, "Anything helps," broke and desperate. There was something in his eyes, a mix of fear, exhaustion, and hopelessness, that caught my attention immediately. Most people would just walk past him, maybe throw a coin and continue their day, but something told me I couldn't. I couldn't ignore the look of defeat that wasn't just about money. It was about life itself. I approached him slowly and asked, "Hey, do you want to change your life?" He looked up, confused, almost suspicious. People had probably asked him for spare change hundreds of times that day, but no one had ever asked him if he wanted to actually transform his life. He laughed nervously. "Yeah, I guess, but how?" That's when I realized this encounter wasn't just random, it was the start of a journey that would change both our lives forever. He told me his story. He was in his late 20s, had no savings, no job, and no education that could help him get anywhere. He had dreams once, big ones, but life had beaten him down with repeated failures. Bills were piling up, debt collectors were calling, and every day felt like a fight he was losing. He felt invisible, trapped in a cycle that he didn't know how to escape. Listening to him, I felt a mix of sadness and determination. I knew that within him, underneath all the fear and self-doubt, there was potential. There always is, it's just buried under bad habits, lack of guidance, and a mindset that poverty had reinforced over years. I told him, "Look, I can take you from broke to rich, but you have to trust me and be willing to put in work every single day for the next 30 days. No excuses." He hesitated at first. Who wouldn't? It sounded impossible. Most people would think it was a scam or a joke, but I saw that flicker of hope, that tiny spark in his eyes, and I knew he was ready. That moment, the hesitation, the doubt, and the eventual nod, was the turning point. The day we met, he didn't have a dollar to his name, but he agreed to something far more valuable, the chance to believe in himself again. We started right there on that wet curb. I didn't hand him money or make empty promises. I gave him a notebook and a pen and asked him to write down everything he wanted out of life. The list was short, messy, and raw. Pay off debt, get money fast, feel respected, and stop worrying about bills. That list became our roadmap, and from that rainy street corner, we began the transformation. I explained to him that wealth isn't just about money. It's about discipline, mindset, and action. And if he was willing to follow a step-by-step plan, the next 30 days could change everything. By the time we parted that day, I could already see subtle changes in him. His posture straightened slightly. His eyes had a glimmer of determination. He still didn't know how, when, or where success would come, but he had taken the first step. He had chosen change over despair. That unexpected encounter, a chance meeting between two strangers, marked the beginning of a journey that would prove that no matter how broke or lost someone is, transformation is always possible if they are willing to act. And so, the stage was set. A stranger, once invisible to the world, was about to embark on a 30-day journey from nothing to something extraordinary. But the path wouldn't be easy, and the lessons learned in those first steps would shape everything that followed. It was the encounter that would ignite a story of hope, grit, and relentless action, a story that would show the world that greatness can start with a single decision. After that rainy afternoon encounter, it became clear that inspiration alone wouldn't be enough. Hope was a spark, but to ignite a fire, he needed a blueprint. A step-by-step plan that could take him from broke to financially empowered in just 30 days. I explained to him that wealth isn't created by luck or wishful thinking. It's built through a combination of mindset, skill, strategy, and relentless action. And over the next 30 days, every hour, every choice, and every effort would matter. The first thing I taught him was discipline. Every day would begin with a strict morning routine, wake up early, exercise, plan the day, and mentally prepare for challenges. Most people underestimate the power of structure, but success favors those who can control their time and energy. I told him, if you can't control your mornings, you'll never control your life. This wasn't just about routine. It was about rewiring the brain to value focus, consistency, and action over excuses. Next, we focused on skill building. I asked him one simple question: what can you offer the world that people are willing to pay for? He had no formal education and no experience in business, but he had a willingness to learn, a hunger to act, and resilience born from struggle. Over the next few days, we identified practical, high-demand skills he could quickly learn online: freelancing, digital marketing, content creation, and e-commerce fundamentals. I didn't give him theoretical lessons. He practiced every day, completing tasks, building a portfolio, and gaining small wins that would snowball into confidence. The third pillar of the blueprint was income creation. Learning skills was useless if he didn't immediately apply them. We set a goal. Within the first week, he had to earn his first $100. No excuses, no delays. I guided him in finding clients, pitching services, and delivering results. He faced rejection, made mistakes, and felt frustrated. But each setback was a lesson, a step closer to mastery. I reminded him constantly, every no brings you closer to a yes. Every failure is a step forward, not backward. By the end of the first week, he had made $120, not much, but it was proof that he could generate income from nothing. Parallel to this, we built daily accountability and reflection into the plan. Every evening, he would review his progress, write down wins and losses, and adjust his approach. This wasn't just about money. It was about building self-awareness and discipline. Success doesn't come from random effort. It comes from intentional, measured, and consistent action. The blueprint also included mindset conditioning. I made him listen to motivational content, read short business guides, and journal about gratitude and goals. Wealth isn't just a skill, it's a mindset. For 30 days we worked on transforming his internal dialogue. I can't became I will learn. It's impossible became how can I make this possible? Small daily shifts in thinking led to a massive cumulative effect. Finally, the blueprint emphasized scaling and compounding. Once he started earning, the plan wasn't just to make money, it was to reinvest, expand, and create multiple income streams. By combining skills, consistent effort, and smart opportunities, we were building a foundation that would outlast the 30 days. The first month would be a sprint, but it was also a launch pad for long-term wealth. By the end of day 3, he began to understand the magnitude of this blueprint. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was structure, focus, skill, action, and discipline. And within the first week, he experienced something that most people in his situation never do: progress. Real, measurable progress. That first step from zero toward financial independence lit a fire in him that no amount of fear or doubt could extinguish. The 30-day blueprint wasn't a gamble, it was a system, proven and repeatable. And as he began to see results, the impossible started feeling possible. He realized that the next 30 days weren't just about money. They were about transformation, a complete rewrite of what he believed about himself and his future. Even with a blueprint in hand, money, making skills to learn, and a clear plan for 30 days, the hardest battle wasn't external. It was internal. I quickly realized that the biggest challenge wasn't teaching him how to earn, it was breaking the mindset that had kept him broke for years. Poverty is not just a lack of money, it's a way of thinking, a voice inside your head that constantly whispers, "You're not enough. You'll never make it, and this is impossible for someone like you." That voice was loud in him, and I knew that if we didn't confront it, no amount of action would lead to lasting success. On the 4th day, frustration hit hard. He had tried to reach clients, applied for gigs, and even started small projects, but his old beliefs kept sabotaging him. "Why would anyone hire me?" he said one afternoon, his head in his hands. "I've never done this before. I'm going to fail." That was the moment I realized this journey wasn't just about teaching skills. It was about rewiring his brain to think differently about himself and his possibilities. I introduced him to the concept of the poverty mindset vs. wealth mindset. The poverty mindset sees limits everywhere. It fears risk, doubts abilities, and focuses on scarcity. The wealth mindset, in contrast, sees opportunity, embraces learning through failure, and believes in growth, persistence, and resourcefulness. I explained that money would follow the mindset, not the other way around. The very first step in changing his life was changing the way he saw himself and the world. We started small. Every morning, I asked him to identify limiting beliefs, statements he told himself that kept him stuck. "I can't do this. I'm too inexperienced. I'll never get ahead." Once he wrote them down, we challenged each one. I'd ask, "Is that really true? What evidence do you have? Could someone else in your position succeed?" Slowly, he began to see that these thoughts were habits, not facts. They were voices inherited from fear, failure, and past disappointments. And habits, I told him, can be broken with discipline, repetition, and awareness. Next, we tackled fear of failure. Every time he hesitated or doubted himself, I made him take action anyway. Pitch that client, submit that proposal, create that content. The first rejection crushed him, but I explained that failure is feedback, not judgment. I shared stories of people who had failed countless times before reaching success. With each small win, his confidence grew. The invisible walls in his mind started cracking, replaced by determination and resilience. I also emphasized the importance of environment. He had been surrounded by people who accepted mediocrity, and it had shaped his beliefs. We actively sought out mentors, motivational content, and communities that reinforced growth and positivity. I reminded him constantly, "Your mind is like a garden. If you water weeds, they grow. If you water possibilities, they flourish." By the second week, I noticed a transformation. He no longer started the day with doubt. He approached tasks with curiosity, embraced challenges, and began speaking about himself differently. "I can learn this," he would say. "I can figure this out." Those words might seem small, but they were monumental. Language shapes reality, and for the first time, he was speaking a new reality into existence. Breaking the poverty mindset wasn't easy. It required confronting fears he had buried for years, challenging his old identity, and repeatedly stepping outside his comfort zone. But step by step, rejection by rejection, thought by thought, the mental chains that had held him captive began to fall away. By confronting his inner doubts head on, he became not just someone who could make money, but someone who could think, act, and see the world like a winner. By the end of this mental battle, he wasn't just ready to earn, he was ready to thrive, because transformation starts in the mind long before it appears in the bank account. And for him, the most important lesson of all was clear. If you don't believe you can change, no blueprint or skill will ever matter. By the start of the second week, the mental barriers had begun to fall away. He had a blueprint, a plan, and a mindset that no longer whispered, "I can't." And now came the real test, execution. This was where the rubber met the road. Knowledge alone doesn't create wealth, action does. I explained to him that the next 30 days weren't just about learning or thinking differently. They were about earning, failing, adjusting, and growing fast. We started small. His first assignment was simple but critical. Earn his first $100 online within the week. No excuses, no delays. I guided him to leverage skills he had learned over the past days: freelancing, digital marketing, and content creation. He started by creating a simple profile on freelancing platforms, applying to small gigs, and pitching clients. Each rejection stung, each no felt personal, but I reminded him rejection is part of the process. Every no is just a step closer to a yes. The first few days were rough. He sent 10 proposals and received 0 responses. Doubt crept in, and his old fears threatened to resurface, but I forced him to analyze, adapt, and try again. We refined his pitch, emphasized his unique strengths, and focused on clarity and confidence. On the fourth day, a client finally responded. They needed a simple task done, something he could handle despite being a beginner. His hands shook as he delivered the work, worried he might fail. But when the client paid him his first $50, his eyes lit up, not because of the money, but because he had proven to himself he could take action and get results. That first income was a psychological turning point. It wasn't about the dollar amount, it was proof that he could translate skill into cash. With momentum building, he doubled down. Every day became about executing fast, learning from mistakes, and improving. Tasks that seemed impossible a week ago now felt manageable. He began taking on more clients, experimenting with small e-commerce projects, and using social media to showcase his skills. I made sure to track every milestone. By day 10, he had made over $300. By day 15, $700. Each success reinforced the principle I had been teaching: action compounds faster than planning. Knowledge without execution is useless. Action, even imperfect action, is what separates the broke from the rich. But execution wasn't just about making money, it was also about learning resilience, patience, and adaptability. Mistakes were inevitable. He delivered work that didn't meet client expectations. He overestimated how much he could do in a day. He felt frustrated and doubted his abilities again. Each time I reminded him, this is not failure. This is feedback. Adjust, improve, and keep moving. These lessons were critical because wealth isn't just about money. It's about developing the discipline to keep pushing when things get tough. By the third week, he had not only earned a substantial amount, but he had also developed a repeatable system. He knew how to identify opportunities, pitch clients, deliver value, and get paid. He had learned to leverage his skills to create a sustainable income rather than relying on luck or shortcuts. The transformation was visible. He walked taller, spoke with confidence, and carried himself like someone who knew he could take on the world. The execution phase was more than financial. It was transformational. He went from being a stranger with zero prospects to someone who took control of his destiny through focused, relentless action. By day 21, he had earned more than he ever thought possible in such a short period, proving to himself that skill plus action equals income. This phase cemented a vital truth. Most people remain broke not because they lack opportunities or ideas, but because they fail to act consistently and courageously. By executing daily, learning quickly, and embracing failure as feedback, he had already taken steps that would set him up for long-term success, well beyond the 30-day challenge. This 600-plus word segment shows the hands-on, practical journey from zero to tangible income, illustrating struggle, adaptation, and small victories. It's designed to keep viewers engaged while emphasizing the actionable steps behind transformation. By the final week of the 30-day journey, the stranger who once sat on the rainy curb with nothing but despair in his eyes had undergone a transformation that was nothing short of extraordinary. He was no longer broke, no longer timid, no longer trapped by the chains of fear and doubt. In 30 days, he had gained something far more valuable than money. He had developed skills, mindset, and confidence that would last a lifetime. The first thing that stood out was his new skill set. Over the past month, he had learned not only how to pitch clients, deliver freelance work, and make sales, but also how to market himself effectively online. He had mastered the fundamentals of high-demand digital skills, built a portfolio, and gained hands-on experience that could earn him income consistently. For someone who had never imagined a life beyond scraping by, these were life-changing abilities. He had moved from knowing nothing to being capable, confident, and resourceful, and that capability would never leave him. Equally transformative was his mindset. Where there was once fear, now there was courage. Where there was once doubt, now there was belief. Where there was once inaction, now there was momentum. The mental barriers that had held him back for years, limiting beliefs, fear of failure, and a poverty mindset, had been shattered through relentless practice, accountability, and daily victories. He now approached life with a growth-oriented mindset, understanding that setbacks were temporary, obstacles were opportunities, and that his future was in his own hands. This mental shift wasn't just a byproduct of learning to earn, it was the foundation for long-term success. Financially, the results were visible. By day 30, he had earned more money than he had in his entire life before the challenge began. But the true value wasn't just the dollar amount, it was the ability to earn repeatedly and sustainably. He had learned how to leverage his skills, identify opportunities, and create multiple streams of income. For the first time, he was financially independent, able to make choices without fear, and confident that he could grow this wealth further. The journey had proven an important truth. Money follows mindset and skill, not the other way around. What made this transformation remarkable was the integration of all three elements: skills, mindset, and income. Each element reinforced the others. His mindset fueled his action built skills, and his skills generated income. By the end of the 30 days, he wasn't just a man who had money. He was a man who had control over his life, a plan for growth, and the confidence to keep going. He was equipped to continue expanding, learning, and thriving long after the challenge ended. This transformation went beyond him. It impacted everyone who witnessed it. Friends and family who once doubted him saw the change, not only in his bank account, but in his demeanor, his confidence, and the energy he carried. He became a walking example that transformation is possible for anyone, no matter how lost or broke they may feel. The stranger was now a mentor in his own right, capable of inspiring others with the story of his journey. In the final moments of our 30-day journey, I reminded him of a powerful truth. Wealth is more than money. It's freedom, confidence, skill, and the ability to take action under any circumstance. And while the first month had been intensive and challenging, it had set the stage for a lifetime of success. The principles he had learned, the power of mindset, the necessity of disciplined execution, and the value of learning marketable skills would continue to serve him indefinitely. By the end of day 30, the stranger had completed a journey few dare to even attempt. He had gone from broke, defeated, and hopeless to empowered, skilled, and financially independent. The transformation wasn't just about reaching a financial milestone. It was about becoming a person capable of shaping his own destiny, confident that he could face challenges, overcome obstacles, and achieve anything he set his mind to. In just 30 days, he had not only changed his circumstances, he had changed his life forever. As the 30 days came to an end, one truth became undeniable. Transformation isn't magic, it's a process. It begins with a decision, the choice to take control of your life rather than surrendering to circumstances. It begins with belief, even when the world has told you you can't, and it continues with action, consistent, disciplined, and relentless action that compounds over time. The stranger who once sat on the curb, defeated and hopeless, now stood as a living testament to what is possible when someone refuses to accept their limitations. He had gone from fear to courage, from doubt to confidence, from zero income to a sustainable financial foundation. But more importantly, he had gained tools that would serve him for life, skills, mindset, and habits that no one could ever take away. What this journey proves is that wealth is not just money. True wealth is freedom, the freedom to make choices without fear. It's confidence, the courage to face challenges head-on, its capability, the skill to create value for others and for yourself, and its resilience, the ability to rise stronger after every setback. The 30-day challenge was not just about changing his bank balance, it was about changing his life. For anyone watching this story, the message is clear. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter how broken or hopeless your situation may seem. Transformation is always possible when you commit to learning, growing, and taking relentless action. One decision, one day, one step at a time can lead to a future you never thought was within your reach. The journey from broke to rich is not just about money, it's about becoming a person capable of achieving greatness. And if a stranger, with nothing but determination and a willingness to act, can change his life in 30 days, imagine what you could do if you applied the same principles. The only thing standing between where you are today and the life you want tomorrow is the choice to start. So, take that first step, commit to the process, embrace the discomfort, the failures, and the lessons along the way, because transformation is not just a moment, it's a journey, and it starts with the courage to act. Remember, wealth begins in the mind, is built through skill, and is realized through action. And for anyone willing to follow that path, there is no limit to what you can achieve.